This critical thinking, innovation, creativity, that's where humanity has to progress, because then you are always ahead one step than the machines.
Where should we focus our attention?
Something is inevitable, then try to learn that how to augment your existing work using that particular technology. The real set of skills that are required is very clarity of thought. What is the goal that you want to achieve? Then detail it and then articulate it in a manner with examples, with input and the context, so that the LLM model could help you.
What's the biggest risk AGI and in general this technology can bring to us, and how we can prepare to them?
So what I'm trying to say across is that we are maturing towards the technology, but we cannot ignore the cost of achieving it and the legal aspects around it, because in order for any technologies to become mainstream, those things would be required.
Greetings everyone, I'm your host Kirill Ivanov. Today we'll dive into exciting world of AI technology with my guest Ali Safri. Ali, it's great to have you here. Could you start by introducing yourself?
Okay, thank you, Kirill. Nice to meet you, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast. I'm Ali Safri. I am Chief Technology Officer at a company called Advanced Innovations.
Okay.
And we work in the exciting area of emerging technologies. So we cover things like blockchains, artificial intelligence, metaverse, and how world could actually be transformed using the new set of technologies. So we create product solutions around it, and we are powering a number of organizations within the GCC and the other rest of the world based on these particular technology.
Okay, it's really cool. But can you share some specific numbers? How long you in this field? How many employees you work with?
Okay, so as a company, Avanza Innovations works across the GCC, including UAE, Saudi, Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain, and we have a number of consortiums based on blockchain that we are running across. And Avanza is a company of around 300 employees, and our motto is simple, that we love technology, we are technologists, and we will try out newer technologies and how that could impact the future workforce or the future solutions that the world would actually utilize.
It's really cool. In your opinion, what do you think what the skills will be crucial for success in the future with AI?
Okay, so what I'll say is that skills remains the same, but what happens is that the efficiency with which you would do the newer technologies will determine it. So let's examine what are the current set of skills that we as humans have. One of them are based on clerical task. It means very procedural task for which 1, 2, 3, 4 steps are quite much known. Like a taxi driver driving a taxi, he is just driving the taxi around. That's one kind of a skill. Another skill is a deep technical skill. A very professional doctor, a neurosurgeon, for example, which has worked a lot in the area of the medicine. That's another kind of a skill set, hard to have a little bit. Then the third set of skills are managerial skills, that you can manage people, you can work with people, interpersonal skills, and like that. And the last set of the area is the creative process, which is around the arts or innovating new things or doing the entrepreneurship. Now, with technology taking a role, number of roles which are in the clerical areas, those technologies like AI is going to replace them. Like we have self-driving cars, so what would the drivers are going to do? So that becomes a question mark. If there are farmers who are doing farming, then the robots which are equipped with the AI technology, they can do that. Or for example, the drones could go across an area for the rescue operation. So there are jobs associated with human beings, but then it would be shifted into a kind of augmentation by this particular newer technology, or as it matures, those kind of roles goes away. Now, if we talk about the managerial skills, what happens is if there is a lot of data available, AI could do the analysis and based on that recommend the decision. So whatever managers are just taking feedback from the others and trying to identify what to do or what decisions to make. So those kind of jobs would also be impacted by AI. But one very, very important thing is the creative process. As humans, we have evolved, so we do something more which is not known.
Okay.
Like, for example, when we were happy with cars,
Yep.
somebody said there should be an electric vehicle. They worked across and proved it across. So,
Yep.
this innovation, which is in our DNA, is that particular skill. And if this future technologies like AI becomes the vehicle so that whatever thoughts come to your mind, you can implement it very, very fast, because now the what question has to be determined by a human being, and how should be taken care by the machines, so that becomes very fast. So the skills that is very, very much important are this critical thinking, innovation, creativity. That's where humanity has to progress, because then you are always ahead one step than the machines.
Right. Okay, so it's really good point. So next question: how can we master AI prompts? Because our life usually become to more often to communicate with some AI tools, and to make AI prompts, it's really important and necessary.
Yes, so with the large language models or the generative AI, one important thing, that if you do something like self-help, then you have a concept of a secret, in which if you want to get something done, then you have to ask the universe or conceive the thing in very, very much detail. Same is the case with a LLM model. If you tell it, generate me a mobile app, then it
Yep.
doesn't have the context.
Yeah,
It is
right.
going to not do that thing in detail. So the real set of skills that are required is very clarity of thought, the how, what is the goal that you want to achieve, then detail it, and then articulate it in a manner with examples, with kind of input and the context, so that the LLM model could help you. It is
Okay.
powerful, it has a lot of contextual understanding, so it could get a lot of things done. But on the surface, if you will try to use the technology, it is not going to help you. But if you are going to craft very detailed prompts, because that also requires that you have a clarity of your thought, that way you can get a better output from the prompts.
Okay, and can you share some example, and let's make decomposition how to make best prompt.
Okay, so I'll give you an example from a perspective of, let's say, if you want to generate some picture, for example. So you could define that, generate me a picture of a cat which is funky, which is doing this, which is doing that. So it can generate something.
Okay.
But if you provide more details, like here is an example cat that I'm giving across, it has this dimensions, it has this particular color. So whatever more context information that you are going to give, so it is going to give something which is much more closer to what you have in mind.
Right. Okay.
So that way, you need to create very, very detailed prompt, and let that particular creativity, the rest of the creativity, with the generative AI tools.
I see. Okay. In the AI era, do you think we still need coding? Should we learn coding skill at the basic level, because it can increase our efficiency how to interact and communicate with some AI tools?
We have machines
Yeah.
that are available, and it's not from here, it is from the era of when big mainframes or big computers were available. Programming them was very, very difficult, because of the fact that you need a lot of skill sets to do that. Then on top of it, because things become easier, so there were programming language, but still very, very much difficult. You have to learn for like 1 or 2 years, and then you become expert on running those particular programs. Now this complexity is and will be more and more gradually taken over by this artificial intelligence layer. So again, if I'm clear in terms of my English or my language, I can just communicate what is the output that I desire, or what are the conditions or the set of output, or how it should look like, or what it's supposed to do. If I can specify to that particular artificial intelligence, it can generate me that particular underlying
Oh,
code.
really?
Because see what happens in a high level programming language, still that old machine language, which is the instructions that the machine understands, when I write it in that way, it compiles it into that particular machine format itself. So now what is happening? It's another abstraction layer on top that I'm going to give it the right kind of the instructions in detail, and then it is going to generate me that particular underlying code. Now, if we stay across at this point in time, you can create all the applications which are running across. So here, yet we have not reached that stage. As the programmers
Yep.
who ever are there, they now use a lot of Gen AI tools in order to generate the code. So that's a practice that has started, but again, going forward, as things are evolving across, the models are getting more and more mature and being trained on more and more massive data set, it would become easier and easier and
Okay.
then disappear. Just like nobody codes in a machine language now,
Okay.
nobody codes in a programming language like Python, C Sharp, or any other languages like that. It would be natural English language.
Okay, as you mentioned, programmers use a lot of AI tools, and which jobs will AI replace first? Will be programmers, or what the kind of jobs will AI replace?
Those kind of jobs which are more procedural in nature, as we discussed, there is a driver, or there is a farmer, or there is somebody who is just sitting on and
How we can
doing
stay
the
ahead?
data entry. So those particular kind of jobs would be easily replaced.
Yeah.
Machines could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as we go forward, other kind of jobs which require a little bit of smartness, but still AI could do those particular analysis, and that could get replaced. Now with the programmers, again, one thing is that you write the programs, but other thing is the context knowledge about of a lot of things, the business domain that they are working across, the workflow, the procedural knowledge, and a lot of other knowledge is there, based on which that complete solution is conceived, not only the program. So those higher level architects, those higher level program and project managers, those kind of jobs will remain, but again, this particular programming jobs could be like going across and replaced with more smarter AI that could help. Now, what I say is that we need to understand that in the world there are two things that happens. One is a strategic question, that what needs to be done.
Yeah, right.
And the second thing is how it would be done. So again, when what question is asked, it involves a lot of creativity. Involves a lot of decision making and setting the direction. So again, those would be the most difficult thing AI could replace, because it's basically a how technology. You tell it this is a task you need to
Right.
achieve, and it could achieve that in a faster manner than what we had been using the machines currently.
Exactly.
So that's how, if something is in that how, if you are on the how side of the equation, then maybe your job might be compromised in
Replaced, you might.
real future. Yeah.
So in this case, what do you think? What the top major careers will be in the future?
Okay,
Where should we focus our attention?
Something is inevitable, then try to learn that how to augment your existing work using that particular technology. So people would need to be upskilled and reskilled based on different professions, and those particular professions would involve around that if all this new technology infrastructure around blockchain or around metaverse or around AI would be created across, there would be people who would be required to support that particular infrastructure. So a lot of jobs around that would be created at first place. Then secondly, an important element is that AI is a data hungry technology.
Okay.
So just like when we have a car which has an engine, so
Okay.
AI considered that as an engine,
Right.
but it would not run without the fuel, which is the data,
Correct.
or maybe the electric power in case of electric car. So that data, how do you generate that particular data? Because it is a real world data.
Oh, okay.
And it is the people and the processes around it which will generate the data. Unless and until that data is not there, AI would not be reflecting things accordingly. As an example, when we talk about all these LLM models, they say across, we have trained it on all the data of the internet, on all the data of the books. But imagine a situation if there is a new galaxy or an alien species or anything else
Okay.
which has not happened. If
Yep.
there is no data available, how would AI do something about it. So people who are in the process of creating that new data, creating and putting that particular creative abilities, that would be the next set of skills that would be required. Now, the third important thing is everybody can be potentially an entrepreneur, because in order to try something, what is required? You would say, okay, I do not have the capability or the technical knowledge around those particular things.
You can use AI in everything, in every case.
Yeah, so what is going to happen now? These LLM models are available, and as most of the model would be available with respect to specific industries like the medicine or oil and gas. So you could easily become an expert, because if there is a situation, you can ask a question and it could give you the solution. You would not require to have like 1,000 of workforce in your organization. You can just be one particular person, and you could
exactly.
run an entire network across multiple continents quite much easily, because that how is now related to thought. As soon as you think across, the how could be translated very, very much fast. So that
Right.
entrepreneurial skill, finding out new business models, being creative, I think those would be the most important skills for the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. What's the main competitors of ChatGPT now? Who will win race of AI technology?
ChatGPT, if we say across, is one of the most better models. But one thing that we need to understand about the current technology, which is called large language models, it is dependent on two things. Its accuracy is dependent on two things. One is what data it is trained for,
Okay.
and secondly, the number of parameters that the model has.
Okay.
The number of parameters means that how these models are connected, that one word, let's say for example, a red brown fox, for example.
Okay.
So how these words are related to each other. Like if there is a mobile, what is the relationship with a human being, with a mic, or with any other equipment around.
Right.
So it can learn, and this is called the number of parameters. ChatGPT has not revealed the number of parameters, but it says across the 1.7 trillion parameters are available for
1.7 trillion parameters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is for this ChatGPT 4. Now there are model which claims, like Olympus from AWS, for example, they claim around 2 trillion parameters. And Claude has a model, Opus, that is also 2 trillion parameters. So it's a
More advanced.
race. Yeah, it's a race that what good quality of data that you train and how many number of parameters, because it can capture much more nuances. How are the interrelations between things? So as this race is going on, like last year we had like 500 billion range. Now we are in 1.7 trillion range.
Oh.
Maybe it is 100 trillion range someday. So then
Yeah, we're
we
really
don't know
extremely going up.
Yeah, who takes this particular lead. And another thing is that this is basically, large language models are kind of dumb. It is not AGI, artificial general intelligence, because it's a narrow AI which is taking a very specific problem. That you give it text prompt, it give you based a result in text, for example, or other models like DALE, you give it an instruction, it gives you the image. It cannot do everything, right?
Yeah,
it's a very narrow focused
some specific task only
models.
can be completed.
Now, like with OpenAI, they said something is happening in AGI space. There was a whole fiasco and conspiracy theories around Sam Altman for this AGI related things as well, because there was some internal AGI project, for example, happening across, and that's why he was fired, and then the board was fired, or whatever fiasco happened over there.
Yeah.
But there's something definitely happening on the AGI, and even OpenAI had been saying something like in 2025, maybe something start to come around AGI technology. So whoever cracks that AGI, they could go and win the race.
Now is large model is 2 trillion parameters.
Yes, so this Olympus and Opus is a company called Anthropic, which has a model called Cloud Opus.
Yeah, I heard about it.
That's 2 trillion. And Olympus is another model which is also 2 trillion parameters.
It's also for daily using?
Yes, they could be utilized.
Oh.
But again, another factor is the data that you have trained it on. There are more parameters, but it has not been given that kind of data for training, then it is going to not give that particular good output as well.
It's
So
also
that's another thing.
depending on
Yes.
data. Okay, I want to touch AI and blockchain synergy, and how can blockchain impact on AI?
As we are going into the area of generative AI or AI in general, what is happening across is that a lot of bad actor could also utilize this particular technology as well.
Okay.
Like we have seen frauds getting started
Yep.
for video calls whereby deep fakes which couldn't be detected.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
just like a real person, or voice cloning, or getting spam emails which are much more like context aware. So I'll give you an example. A few days back, I got a call from somebody who said, "I am from Aramex and I want to deliver something to your home. I don't know the address. So please tell me the address."
Okay.
I could see another email that is coming, which I did not notice. It was like, rather than Aramex, it was Aranex or something with a domain name, and it was saying the same thing, that okay, there is, for example, we don't know the address. So I clicked on that. I said, okay, somebody has called, so it would be that thing as well. And I entered those particular details. Then it asked for the card number. Then
Oh, whoa, whoa.
I
Easy,
said,
easy.
okay, check what is the domain. So it was something else. So it's a very simple example, but what happens is that in order to defraud, you'd need a lot of context information, which generally everybody would not have. But now with this particular technology is much more like context related emails could be crafted across, where we have keep a lot of blueprint on the internet using all this social media. So it could understand your personality and try to cater you in that particular manner using AI. So now one important element is, in this world where you could not trust people, like communications on the other side, or somebody is presenting you with a document, or somebody is providing you information, is the lack of trust. How you enable that particular trust? So blockchain is something which says, okay, this person is verified, this is completely traceable data, this is the trackability of the things. So that's how AI can work across with blockchain to enhance the traceability of information. Secondly, and it is a kind of a technology which actually is much more deterministic, because it is based on proofs. It is
Yeah, yeah.
not based on undeterminism, that every time there could be change, or you would not be able to know about the things. Another aspects are that AI itself is not sufficient. Why? Because the language model, it was taught certain things, but in real
Okay.
world things change.
Yeah, right.
So, in order for models to work, it needs to be highly connected with the real world. So, even when we see across ChatGPT, initially you were asking the question, whatever it knew, it answered based on that. But then, ability to search the web, get the data, and based on that, its understanding that context of the web search combined together, it is giving you the responses. So connectivity in a sense is very much important. In order to get connected, again, that trustful source is very much important. That if I'm connecting for this particular data,
Okay.
for payments information, for other things, is it trusted or it is not? So this blockchain could provide that element of trust into all this ecosystem,
No, it,
basically.
it will be really strong synergy. And
Yes.
how do you think AI with blockchain can change world of finance?
So, in terms of finance, if we could see across that everybody wants have some kind of a spare money, then you want to invest. Now, what you currently do is that you rely on people who have experiences with the investment, because it's in art as well as a science. There is a lot of things. There is a regular monitoring that needs to be done.
Yep.
So, with time, not now, with time, AI could also take that particular role, because it would be connected using blockchain with trusted data sources in the real world, like real world correct feeds,
Oh,
not false feeds. Because see, if there is an AI and if it is being fed false feeds, then it will give results which are also false.
it's really
So
interesting.
so it has to get very realistic fields for which there is a trust need to be established. So blockchain was going to establish that, and then based on all the past experiences of wise investing in different areas, or real time tracking what is going up and down. Based
Yeah.
on that, these could be models that could suggest to you that why don't you invest in this particular thing.
Oh, really?
Seeing all your personalized behaviors of the past, your preferences, because people might not want to invest in a specific area or might not want to a specific area they want to invest, and they could also see the news or the progress, and based on that advice. This currently doesn't happen, but if you say across tomorrow it is going to happen, it is not going to happen as well. We are talking about 2 to 3 years when there would be more maturity. So this is how AI could, and blockchain could make those particular decisions.
Do you believe that AI can predict market trends and financial crises?
Currently, there are two problems here. One is prediction based on data is still available much more before generative AI. So there are predictive models because if you have a lot of data available, so based on the patterns that haven't happened in the past, because mostly 80% of the time the same kind of pattern repeats.
Yep.
So that's why, but people don't know about that pattern. Like if you see about this stock analysts, they have certain graphs with wedges and triangles and
Yes, there are a
bars,
lot of parameters.
and they predict those particular things. And if people are good at it, they could also see that something could go a upward trend or a downward trend, but an ordinary person would not know. But if the same information is trained on a model that could ideally do that, maybe right now the technology or the infrastructure is not that much available, but saying across in the next 5 years, those kind of things could be available. Another thing is a concept. If you know about, there is a book called Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. It discusses one very important element, that there was a
You
sheep,
never know what can
and
happen.
yeah, and you give it like food every day, but one day you are going to actually butcher that particular sheep. So it would never predict that this kind of thing could happen to me. Similarly, uncertainty that a black swan would occur. So AI till now could detect an anomaly, but how to react based on that, because we as human doesn't know. AI is what we train it to be.
Yeah.
Like it's a good collective wisdom of the whole humanity, which AI could do. But if the whole humanity doesn't know about it, so AI doesn't also know about it.
Yeah.
So those kind of areas could not be catered for. But yeah, this is how what I see is that future financial model could be based in. And secondly, one very important element in the whole economics of things is the ownership of the assets. Like people buy cars, people buy homes, people buy assets.
Okay.
They're financed by banks and other things happens. With the concepts like real world asset tokenization,
Okay.
everything could be tokenized across. It might not be that one party is owning it. Everybody might be owning that particular thing and doing a revenue share. Maybe you sit in a taxi that's not owned by one specific entity, but there are a number of people that are owning it, and every time that meter runs, so people are paid across, whoever are the owners.
But it's not same principle like in stocks. If I will invest in stocks.
You invest in stocks, but that's not a kind of a real-time model.
Okay.
See, in these particular things, AI, because you are seeing and monitoring the regular day-to-day execution, maybe an agent based on AI is analyzing the data and seeing the things across and giving the dividends in real time. Now, when you invest in stocks, you say, okay, the company will go up or down, but you are not aware of a lot of information. Only the information that they release, that's how the things would be available. But in this particular case, assets rather than companies. So with the stocks are also one asset, but what I am talking about, it could be a same company. Let's say, for example, they are taking care of property management. Now, in order to manage that particular property, they need to buy that particular property. Let's say, for example, create like holiday home kind of a thing.
All right.
But that $2 million or $3 million property, they cannot put. Maybe if they will put how many property they could buy, but if they list it as a real world asset tokenization platform, then what people can buy small tokens.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, for $50 or $100, and across the world people could buy that. Now this person is managing the property. People can sell it into the secondary market easily, and then if a dividend comes, people can get that particular dividend as well. So ownership structures, because it will change. And
Okay.
now who owns what, this is regulated by blockchain. So a lot of business models, newer business models, based on the money available, the ideas available, the knowledge that is available from AI, could be evolved across to do much more complex systems. So with blockchain comes DeFi, that you have a distributed finance available whereby you could write a number of different kind of applications. With DeFi and the analysis of AI, maybe artificially intelligent DeFi will evolve, and it would be newer and more creative applications would come on top of it. But it's when that whole infrastructure is available.
Okay, makes sense. And how do you think AI make the transition to Web3 and virtual world faster?
AI is going to be a helper, but what I think is that the transition to virtual worlds is itself limited because of the size of the headset. We need to first sort out how that could be lightweight headsets so that we could
You're
be
talking
in a
about
virtual
like
reality.
hardware, right?
Yeah, the hardware. So the headset, like for example, Oculus or Apple Vision Pro, they are coming. They are trying to actually make the size smaller, much more
Yeah,
lightweight.
right.
So this is the first question that needs to be sorted across. But again, people who are there, including the Gen Zs, they love to go into this particular virtual worlds. Once this is embraced as a technology, the next thing is when I'm in a virtual world, how do I interact with that particular system inside? Typing on a keyboard or clicking here and there would not be a good option. So how AI is going to enable that is that gesture based instructions to be given, or speech based instruction to be given in a specific way, because this is how we interact right now. We
Yeah,
are interacting based on a
exactly.
speech. So that's one area that it is going to impact. And the other thing, which is again we are a little bit far away, but if at this point in time, if I can give an instruction based on which I can generate an image, I can generate a video, so I can generate a virtual world as well. So imagine a kind of a new tourism that could be created across, that people go to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower, or
Okay,
people go to New York to see Statue of
it's
Liberty.
insane.
Here would be new virtual worlds that people will create
Yeah.
on the fly using the AI with new innovative ideas. So maybe we could visit places which we like never exist, or
Yeah, and other planets.
yeah, on the other planets.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And could you describe what's the exactly difference between AGI and AI?
AI that we are working today
Yeah, you
is,
mentioned about it's like
it's a narrow AI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The narrow AI means that under a very specific problem, it is trained and it can answer only based on that particular domain. But as humans, we do a lot of things. We have a brain, we have a heart, we have all the input sensors. So there is a cognitive ability to analyze the things, what is happening in our environment, emotional touch to it, that how do we react based on those particular things. So AI is generally not there. So what makes AGI different, which is artificial general intelligence, is that one thing is that it cannot train itself.
Yeah.
Right now, what happens is that if there is a model, I need to train it, and that training activity will require certain time based on the computation that we have available, this NVIDIA's GPUs and everything that will run and that will train it. When you ask a question, let's say to an LLM model or other sort of AI, then it is going to run those neural network inside it to give you an answer.
Yep.
But if you are going to ask something about it, it doesn't know, it cannot answer you. But again, to the ChatGPT, if we answer something which was not initially trained on, still it answers. So how it does answers, it goes into the real world, get that context information and give it to the model. So along with that data, it can give you the response.
Oh.
But it cannot learn based on that particular data. If you stop it and re-query it, it
Yeah.
would not know about it, because it is not learning based on the experience. As a human, let's say I met somebody in my childhood.
Yep.
After that, I have not seen that particular person. But if I meet him, I would meet him in a different manner, because maybe he's a childhood friend. This is
Yep.
something this AI cannot do. So first thing is, It is trained on a specific purpose. It is not trained on a general purpose. It cannot do everything. A human
Okay.
does everything. It takes the cognitive signals. It does a lot of things. It could do drawing. It could do analytics. But a model is specifically trained for something. Current AI models that would do something. Second thing is about this retaining that particular long term memory, because they do not have a memory. They answer based on that particular sessions
Yeah, yeah,
or based on those particular context token. And by the way, in the current LLM model, there is one another attribute which is called a context window. They
yeah.
provide 200,000 tokens or 300,000 tokens, but it is limited to that, because what you do every time, if you are
Okay.
in a session, you keep accumulating that information so that the model knows. Once that history is gone, again it is blank.
But
It
AGI
cannot retain it.
AGI will have capacity to keep all memory.
So this is AGI, which would be actually learning based on this particular data set. Another thing is called a transfer learning. We as human, what we do, we acquire a skill set. Let's say how to drive a car, then maybe another rough terrain which is there. So I could combine multiple skills and try to do something around it.
Yeah.
Because again, these models are trained on a specific set of data. They might not be doing that. So, for example, a bot that was deployed as a driver, and then the same logic wants to work in a warehouse, for example, it might not know unless trained.
Okay.
So that's where there is a difference between AGI. But what is particularly scary, that if AGI come across, then it would be as sharp as thousand human beings, because it can learn a lot of things quite much quickly.
Exactly.
And that way it would be much more intelligent. So the question arises, what happens is a iRobot or a Terminator kind of a scenario can occur. So again, one important thing is about self-awareness or the need or a purpose. So again, if it could be trained and guardrailed in a way that it only solves the how problem and not the what problem, then
Yeah.
we as humanity are
Exactly.
in good shape. But if it talks about the what problem, that this needs to be done, this is wrong, this is right,
Okay.
then it could be an ultimate conflict. But that's as far away, and that's called artificial super intelligence,
Oh.
basically. So it is not AGI. Within the context of AGI, it becomes a general purpose intelligence like a human being, not artificial super intelligence, because artificial super intelligence tries to find the purpose, why I was born, what I need to do, what is my purpose in life, what is right, what is wrong. So that's
Damn.
something which
Actually, I can imagine what can happen when super intelligent comes. What is your bet when AGI become a reality? Are we close?
So now, in order for a technology to be embraced in your day-to-day life, I'll answer it then in that way that, okay, let's see about the current technology of the AI that we have available. We could do a lot of more things smartly with concepts of co-pilot and even using the ChatGPT to create new content and do a lot of things. But we should also see on two other aspects. One is, what is the cost of doing something? Now, when we talk about this particular cost, it's very costly, because on the GPUs that it
GPU is
runs,
spicy.
they are costly, and it takes a lot of computing power and energy in order to run that particular thing. And adoption also depends on what is the cost of doing this. That's one thing. And another important aspect is a legal aspect. We could think about the current AI technology of self-driving cars.
Okay.
It is there, the technology is available, it is mature, but there are fundamental questions legally that needs to be asked in terms of regulation. If a person does an accident, the person
Who?
is liable for that particular accident, no matter what was his psychological conditions or whatever. A court will say this guy did
Yeah.
an accident. But if a self-driving car does an accident,
Who right, who not right?
is the person, if you will tell him, so he says it was a self-driving car, what should I do? You go to the manufacturer of the car, they will say it was a software, we procured the software from someone else. The software company says we have a lot of developers who have developed this particular technology.
Yeah.
They'll say we write the code, we don't test it, and the testers will say it is not our job. So whom to blame, that's not known. So that's why the regulation will always be slower because it has to be safe.
It's different, totally different
Yes,
aspects. It's ethical dilemma.
yeah, it's an ethical dilemma as well as it is for the safety of the people. That's why we could see even in the current case with the EU regulations around the AI, they have clearly stated that okay, if there is a minimal risk with respect to AI, you are doing it in a gaming or you are predicting a movie on Netflix, that's fine.
No.
But if even it's a chatbot related conversations, you have to put that this is a model, you cannot trust it because it can hallucinate, it could be unexplainable things, it could give non-factual results as well. So those level of things are there. So what I'm trying to say across is that we are maturing towards the technology, but we cannot ignore the cost of achieving it and the legal aspects around it, because in order for any technologies to become mainstream, those things would be required. So that's one thing. The next thing is AGI. In order to do that particular AGI, much more investments is required, much more clarity is required, because even the current AI is not explainable.
Correct.
If something is not explainable legally, it cannot be accepted very, very much easily. So that's my bet on it. The one thing is for AGI to get matured, which I think is a little bit far, because once we solve all the regulatory challenges as well as the cost challenges around the current AI, it
Okay.
becomes much, much more mainstream. Then we could move on to the AGI acceptance. But maybe in a 10 years time frame, it might be a reality.
Okay.
And one other thing that people should understand, that all these cloud companies like OpenAI, they are not making profit because they are running a huge infrastructure which is based on NVIDIA, which is
Yes, the
making the
work
profit.
in long term.
Yeah, so they are thinking in a longer term, but right now they are investing across. Unless and until the cost of the GPUs or the computation that becomes smarter, that becomes less costly, it would not be embedded in the normal life. Till the time these guys are going to pay the bill for people to use the technology, that's fine. But otherwise, like a mainstream adoption requires this regulatory as well as the cost factor to be addressed along with the accuracy of the technology.
Okay, makes sense. What will world look like when AGI takes over?
Okay, again, what I'll say across is that we need to take care of that any form of AI, which is the current AI, which is the narrow AI that we have, or the AGI, which is there in the future,
Yep.
there could be guardrails, and AI should be in charge of doing the how part of it.
Okay.
If it does the how part of it, then the world looks good, because it is again much more efficient for the humanity to get the things done, and humans can rely on that particular creative innate ability. They can actually nurture those particular ability rather than worrying about the how problem,
Okay.
because they can think about something and the bots could get that particular thing. If a highway or a bridge needs to be created across, this AI could do that particular legwork, because it's most kind of a deterministic problem. Wherever there is undeterminism, this could be found out. It's not that creative problem, it's a how problem, right? So that way those things could be done in a way faster. But again, if you have that guardrails not available and this particular AI start to think on its own, then there could be a problem that could happen. But otherwise, what I see across is that getting things done would be better, because at one time, like when the calculator came,
Okay.
then people also shouted that what is this particular device? It will have this kind of negative impacts. You would not remember how to do the addition or multiplication, or your mind will not work to its full capacity.
Yep.
But we are good, right? So in
Yeah.
1800s,
Right.
if or 1900s, if there were protests regarding this, but humanity has evolved. So as we will get AI mainstream, so I think it is going to help a lot, and we see a world whereby man and the machine could live in a harmony.
Okay. You work with a lot of companies, with big companies, and by your knowledge, how AI and AGI can revolutionize healthcare, education, and government?
AGI is available at that point in time. Again, that particular how role. So, in terms of healthcare, currently what happens is that if we go to a doctor and then there is some diagnosis,
Yep.
and it's a kind of a reactive therapy that you go into.
Okay.
But if AGI is available, whereby from the very beginning, a child with its lifestyle, whatever ingredients that you take across, it could predict where you are going across, what potential diseases you could contract, or what could be your lifespan. So it could be a proactive approach with which AGI could guide across, and rather than getting into somewhere where you have to get treated, you don't reach that particular stage. So it's an early warning system, for example, that could be enabled.
Yep.
So the whole concept of health would be transformed. Maybe the pharma and the medicine industry might not like it, but if such a thing happens, then
It's
there won't
unstoppable.
be any diseases basically to get into, because you would have avoided that path which would have led to a disease. So that's one thing that medicine or area could be disrupted with this particular technology if AGI comes, for example. Then secondly, if we talk about governments, the models could change. Now, what happens is that people who do the governance of a country or governance of an organization, they are basically representatives of people, that what people want to do across.
Yep.
But people don't decide. People just pay the taxes, right? They decide what is good for the country, spend in education, for example, spend in infrastructure. But with distributed architectures, just like a decentralized economy based on the blockchain based currencies, all the traceability of the information is available. So people would then vote that in my area I need a bridge or I don't need a bridge. If I need a bridge, my tax money should be allocated over here. And they could also get progress information available real time. So kind of the models in which the governance is done and how people interact with the government, that would be much fair, much transparent, and with much with lesser number of bias. Another example is that there could be elected representatives, but they might have their intrinsic biases. Rather than they taking the decision, if these decentralized AI smart systems
Yep.
are going to take the decisions, then they will consider all the aspects
Yeah.
rather than the a bias inherent in it. So a
Correct.
much more fair and transparent system could be created across. And again, the thing is the how problem should be kept across, not the what problem over here, because then it would decide that okay, rather than these three school of thoughts, there's a fourth school of thought. That is going to be a problem. So it has to like kind of balance the bias between the three school of thoughts, because everybody has there are a lot of school of thoughts, right? But it should not create altogether a new school of thought. Otherwise, there would be another kind of a challenge that we might face. And last of all, you talked about education. So, generally, imagine if I have a very intelligent tutor who could tell me personally, based on my scenario, everything in advance, where I am standing. It can guide me that okay, these are the do's and don'ts. This is what you need to learn. This you need to be aware of. So everybody would have that particular personal tutor. Nobody goes to a school.
Yeah, it could be replaced also this
Yes.
career.
So everybody is now looking across a set of intelligences that is guiding them in their real life. But again, a sort of schooling would require for what the technology cannot do. But in a future world where AGI is available, people will resort to more of self-education rather than going into structured education system that we go into now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. For one hand, it's really bring big opportunity and big advantage from. But from other side, from other hand, what's the biggest risk AGI and in general this technology can bring to us, and how we can prepare to them?
The guardrails that you need to put, and not let it go into this question of what needs to be done, because then it decides, and that opinion could be different on what is the general understanding of the humanity. But otherwise, till it is solving the how problem, I think there is not much risk. Another aspect that comes across is around what to do with a lot of human workforce, because there should be a plan how to skill or re-skill those particular people for
Okay.
the newer technology set, because then otherwise there is a economic problem. You have people who
Right.
do not have the money because they do not have the jobs, because
Exactly,
the
exactly.
AI is doing all these particular jobs. But then another problem is this AI is serving certain people, and there would be companies that would be powering this particular AI, and they would also expect themselves to be get paid for
Yeah.
providing the services, but the people who are there do not have a money. So it's a kind of a circular problem that is going to happen. Everybody needs to have certain kind of a role in which a coexistence could happen. And as the three things mature, one is that technology itself,
Yep.
one is the cost of that particular technology, and one is the regulatory aspects of that particular technology. The last and final piece is how to proactively move the workforce into embracing the technology or work together with it, or finding business models where both the machines and the people could coexist. Because otherwise, if you wipe out 50% of the jobs in the world, and so it is going to become a very inconsistent system. So that's the biggest risk. Somebody needs to talk about that. But in a world where we don't talk even about the climate change, I don't know how things are going to
Yeah.
happen.
By my experience, AI is really simplify and optimize all process in work in my business. So my question is, how can startups use AI to stay ahead of the competition?
Again, there are big corporates working across with kind of a bureaucracy and a lot of experience. Again, with the availability of AI, with the openness of data that is available over the web, because there is a semantic web that is there with a lot of experience written into big blobs that could be ingested across, and these are how the models are trained on, as well as the ability to interact with that particular AI, because it is like now just in natural language. New business model could be evolved. So
Yeah.
this is the best time where startups could think about newer business models and be much more efficient than the big bureaucratic based organizations. So again, what I see in the future is that nobody works for someone else. Everybody try to create their own niche
Yeah.
and let their employee workforce be the technology.
New era of entrepreneurship
Yes.
coming.
And by force, everybody has to, because if you want to survive, the only way is that if you are an entrepreneur, bring something of a value, because and that value is for what?
Yeah.
Because that's the thinking part. The what needs to be done, what would be the business model, how this is going to help somebody else, because the how part would be streamlined. There is technology that could cater to that particular how part.
It's true. So, and before we wrap up, I have a last question. So, what's the recommendation and insight you can give our audience?
In order to stay ahead, what you need to do is that you need to understand how the technology landscape is transforming the world. And what is most likely going to happen
Yep.
is that more decentralization is going to happen, which is embracing the blockchain technology. More artificial intelligence is going to come in the regular work that we do across, and most probably much more virtual experiences using the concept of the metaverse. If the gears become lightweight, then those interaction patterns between the human beings will also change. So keep a look and see across how the technology could help you in whatever work that you do. If you think across that, okay, the way we do the work currently, then ultimately you would be forced into embracing it. But if you will proactively embrace it, then you would have a better chance to become the leader in the next set of world, how it would evolve.
Yeah, in total, yeah, we're living in really exciting time.
Yeah.
So, thanks for joining. It was
Thank you.
pleasure
Thank you.
to discuss.